We're going to be looking at the color wheel next. On your Canvas classroom, there is a link to this handout that you can print. But if you do not have a printer, I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can create your own color wheel. So that's going to involve some measuring. So you will need for this some of your sketchbook paper. This is 8.5 by 11 inch sketchbook paper. I will also demonstrate using 9 by 12 sketchbook paper. You will need a pencil, of course. You will need a ruler, and you'll need a compass. So the first step here is we want to create a square on our paper. So since this measures 8.5 inches this way and 11 inches this way, I'm going to only be able to make an 8.5 inch square. So I'm going to turn my paper into landscape view, and using my ruler, I'm going to line up the 0 of my ruler to the left side of my paper at the bottom, and I'm going to come over here and make a mark at 8.5. I'm going to move the ruler to the top. Never turn your paper when you measure. You want to move the ruler. And I am once again lining up the 0 of the ruler to the left edge of my paper, and I'm going to come over here and make a mark at 8.5. Now that I have these two reference points, and notice my marks are really small, I'm going to use my ruler to line these up and draw a line from the edge of the paper to the edge of the paper. So now that I have that, I'm going to turn it back into portrait view, and I want to find the center of my square. So 8.5 divided by 2 is going to be 4.25. So I line up the 0 of my ruler to the edge of my paper, and I find the 4-inch mark and the 1/4 inch mark after it, and I'm making a small mark above that. And I am going to once again slide my ruler to the top of my paper, 0 on the left edge, find 4.25 at the top, make a mark, and I am going to line those two marks up, and from the edge of the paper to my line, I'm going to create a line. So I've divided the paper, this square, in half. I'm going to do the same thing in the opposite direction so that I have a large plus sign here. That will mark the center of my color wheel. So I turn my paper back into landscape view. Once again, down near the bottom, I'm going to line up the 0 of my ruler to the left edge of the paper, and I'm going to make a mark at 4.25. Move my ruler to the top, line up the 0 on the left edge of the paper, and again make a mark at 4.25. And once again, connect those two marks. And I now have what's going to be the center of my color wheel. So my next step is I want to draw a large circle here. So on my compass, this small metal circle in the middle of this wheel is the center of my compass. And I want to make a circle that will fit on the paper and fill it up. So I'm testing it out here. And this hole here is going to make that large circle for me. So the color wheel we are going to be working with is a 12 color wheel. So you'll notice here that there are 12 circles around the center of my color wheel. Right now I only have 4 sections, so I need to divide each section into 3 equal parts. And here's how we do that. I'm going to come to the top of my square, and lining up the 0 at the halfway point, I want to find the halfway point between 0 and 4 1/4. So that is going to be 2 1/8. I need the same measurement on this side. So 4 1/4 plus 2 is 6 1/4 plus 1/8. So I have those 2 marks, and I want to make the same marks down along my line at the bottom. So 0 to 4 1/4, 2 1/8 is my halfway point. And 6 3/8 is my halfway point here. I'm going to connect this mark at the top to this mark at the bottom, but I'm not going to draw a line all the way through. I'm going to stop as soon as I hit my circle. Just like that. Going to do the same thing with these 2 marks. Line those up with the ruler, and again I'm going to just go from the outer edge of the paper to the outer edge of my circle, and my line to the outer edge of my circle. I'm then going to turn my paper into landscape view, and I'm going to do the same thing. So once again, lining up my ruler, the 0 to the left edge of my paper. I need the halfway point once again between 0 and 4 1/4. That is 2 1/8. And on this side, I need the same 2 1/8 mark measurement, which is 6 3/8. Going to move my ruler down to the bottom. Once again, 0 lined up on the left side, make a mark at 2 1/8 and at 6 3/8. And I'm going to do the same process. Going to line up the mark at the top here to the mark at the bottom. And from the edge of my paper to the outer edge of my circle, I'm going to connect a line. And from the edge of my paper to the edge of my circle, I'll connect a line down here. And I'm going to do that one more time. Lining up my top mark to my bottom mark with my ruler. I'm going to go from the edge of the paper to the outer part of my circle, and from the edge of the paper to the outer part of my circle. And when I'm done, I'll have something that looks like this for now. So what these marks along the outer edge of my circle is going to help me divide this up into wedges. So if I take the time to number these, starting with my paper in portrait view and this line as 1, going to work my way clockwise. This is line 2, line 3, line 4, Down along the bottom is line 5 and line 6. Starting on my left edge, line 7, and finally line 8. So notice it's just the marks that we just made. To get my pie wedges, I'm going to take where line 1 meets my outer circle and connect it through the center to line 5 where it meets the outer circle. And I'm going to draw a line inside my circle, connecting those. Where line 2 meets the outer circle, through the center to line 6 meeting the outer circle, I'm going to line up my ruler. And draw a line through my circle. I'm going to go to line 3 through the center of my circle to line 7. And draw a line in my circle. That leaves me with one more connection, line 4 and line 8. Line those up and draw a line through my circle. Now that I have my circle divided into 12 sections, I need to make some areas to color in for my color wheel. You could use a compass, but we don't need too large of a circle on here. On the handout, if you were able to print it out, there's 2 different sizes of circles. I'm just going to create one size of circle. So what I did was I took the lid off of a spice jar, and I'm going to line it up to the outer edge of my circle. And without measuring, I'm just trying to judge that it's about evenly spaced on that line. The line kind of splits it in half. And I'm just going to trace around this circle. So you'll want to find something similar. You don't want a circle too big, but you also don't want one too small. I'd say a water bottle circle may be too small. And for now, I'm going to go every other line. So I started at the top and drew this circle. I'm going to skip this line, and I'm going to come over to line 3 and draw a circle on it. I'm going to skip this line, and I'm coming down to line 4, and I'm going to trace a circle over top of it. Going to skip line 5, and I'm coming down here to the bottom line, and once again place my cap on that line and draw a circle. I'm going to skip line 6, come over to line 7, and once again place my cap on the line and draw a circle. So notice these circles are touching my outer edge of my large initial circle. Skip this line, and on line 8 do the same thing. Now the reason why I went every other line is to see, first of all, if this cap will fit another circle in between them, and it's not. It's going to overlap a little bit. So I have a choice. I can either go and find a smaller cap, or I could move this cap towards the center a little bit. And trace it on the line. And I'll do that now to every line that doesn't have a circle. I'm going to move my cap towards the center and trace around it. So when I am doing this, I get the cap near my already drawn circles, but they're not overlapping it. So they kind of touch. Now, depending on the size of circle you trace on here, you may have room to put all of your circles around the outer edge here. Our goal, though, is to have 12 smaller circles on each of these division lines for our color wheel. Once I have this, I'm going to then come in and erase the line going through these smaller circles. So now my color wheel is ready for the directions on completing the color wheel with colored pencils.